Maybe you can heal the soul of the country. You're not going to heal the soul of Mitch McConnell.
For one reason.
No soul.
That's right. Welcome to part 2 of our look at the key ads from 2020. Today we're going to be breaking down the ads that defined the Biden campaign. I'm Dan Pfeiffer, former communications director for Barack Obama. Joining me today is Jon Favreau, Barack Obama's former speechwriter and my co-host on Pod Save America. The first ad we're going to look at is a positive spot from the Biden campaign with their closing message.
I started this campaign saying we're in the battle for the soul of the nation. I believe that even more deeply today. Who we are, what we stand for, and maybe most importantly, who we are going to be. It's all at stake. Character is on the ballot, the character of the country. And this is our opportunity to leave the dark, angry politics of the past 4 years behind us, to choose hope over fear, unity over division, science over fiction. I believe it's time to unite the country, to come together as a nation. But I can't do it without you, so I'm asking for your vote. We need to remember, this is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been unable to do when we've done it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I wonder if this ad and this message were the absolute right message to beat Donald Trump, but perhaps the wrong message to sweep in a Democratic majority down ballot. I wonder if this ad was offering a permission structure for independents, Republican-leaning independents, even some Republicans saying, you know what, this election is about character, it's about Donald Trump's character, it's about dark, angry politics that Donald Trump represents, and you can vote for Joe Biden to get rid of that and still maintain your own partisan identity, perhaps by voting for Republicans down ballot.
This is definitely the right message for Biden. When Biden did his very first ad of the announcing he was running for president, this was his message. And people like you and I, who are professional political observers, we hate Republicans with the passion of 1,000 suns. I did not love this message when it came out, right? And Biden was ultimately right about this. The context changed, but he was right all along. He was where the country was, or at least enough of the country to win. It was authentic to him, and it worked.
You know, you said we're political professionals who hate Republican politicians, and we do, but we've also seen focus groups and polling data for a decade now where a vast majority of people in this country want unity. They want politicians to come together. They want bipartisanship. And this is like the conundrum that we face right now. You and I know that that is bullshit and not going to happen because the Republican Party is not going to let it happen. And yet that never changes voters' feelings, especially the median voter, from wanting politicians to work together, wanting unity in this country. It works as an ad quite effectively. It works as a message quite effectively from Joe Biden. It worked quite effectively for Barack Obama for 2 terms. I think the challenge is you have a country where voters want both parties to work together. You have one party that's willing to do that, and you have another party that's not willing to do that and knows that if they obstruct all the time, then they will cause the other party to fail.
This is the challenge for Biden. He's going to have to do 2 things once he assumes office. One is he's going to have to make it clear that healing the soul of the country is not the same thing as healing Washington, D.C. When American people want unity, they obviously will want bipartisanship. They would like it if Washington, D.C. Worked better, but they also want to be able to go to Thanksgiving and not get in a screaming match with their uncle. They also want to not have to go on Facebook and see that their dentist is a member of QAnon. They want a more unified country, and they want to feel better about being American. And that's not just getting Mitch McConnell to do better things than Mitch McConnell wants to do.
Maybe you can heal the soul of the country. You're not going to heal the soul of Mitch McConnell.
For one reason.
No soul.
That's right.
Set you up for that.
The next ad we're going to look at is an economic ad from the Biden campaign.
When you walked in to that mill, you had a good wage, you had good benefits, you were able to take care of your family. I worked 47 years in a steel mill. Trump said he was going to save the steel industry and the auto workers, but in April this year, my steel mill closed. He said, elect me, and you'll see the best days yet. And all I'm seeing is the worst days. This is his economy. This is his problem right now. And he keeps telling how great it is. We lost 1,300 good paying jobs. I lost my job. That was on his watch. Joe Biden is what American manufacturers need. Joe grew up in an iron town. He comes from a family that are hardworking Americans, union people. He knows what manufacturing jobs are, and he's going to be the one that brings them back and make them strong again. He's got a plan. He's done it before. He comes from a blue-collar background. He is one of us. Joe is one of us. You can debate him all you want, but you can't take away his character.
What do you think?
I thought it was a great ad. I thought it was a great message. It is your traditional, economically populist message from a Democratic politician running for office that we have seen for many years now. The question I have about this is, the polling that's now bad showed that Joe Biden was doing better than Hillary Clinton among non-college educated white voters. It turns out from the results that he did not do that much better, if at all, in some places, than Hillary Clinton among white non-college voters. But in certain counties that are made up predominantly of non-college educated white voters, it does appear that Joe Biden at least didn't do worse and held enough of those voters to put him over the top. And the margins, of course, were very, very, very thin. And as we were saying earlier, like, politics now is so much about identity. And that ad towards the end there was about identity when that guy said, he comes from a blue collar background. He's one of us.
You're right. It is an identity ad. It is saying that you're hearing all these things about Democrats, right? They're the party of the elites, they're the party of the rich, the party of Hollywood, they're the party of black people and brown people, and the most base, morally offensive, racist appeals that have been at the center of the Republican messaging about Democrats going
Forever.
back to Reagan, right? And before that,
Yeah.
it's Nixon and on. This is an ad that is defending Joe Biden against a vision of Democrats that easily fits within the strategy of people like Lee Atwater and Karl Rove and others. And it arrested the slide, as far as we know, with Democrats and white working class voters, right? The question over the long term for Democrats is, here you have someone who is a older white guy from Scranton of humble beginnings. If Joe Biden can't outperform Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama with these voters, what Democrat can?
Arresting the slide of non-college educated white voters away from the Democratic Party may not be candidate dependent. The black guy from Chicago named Barack Hussein Obama did better, much better among non-college educated white voters than Hillary Clinton and then Joe Biden. There are larger forces at play here that are pushing non-college educated white voters away from the Democratic Party, and it may not be a simple message or a candidate quality from Democrats that gets them back. And that's sort of what we have to like look into now.
Well, if we don't solve that problem, we are not going to win the Senate, and we're going to really struggle in the Electoral College for a very long time.
Everyone's like, why is there so much focus on non-college educated white voters? These are Trump voters. A lot of them have racist views. Why are we spending so much time trying to get them back? It's not because it's like out of the goodness of our hearts that we want to get them back. It's a math problem. In a high turnout election, when you have just a ton of non-college white voters coming out, and you have high turnout, astronomically high turnout among the Democratic side, like, you can't win some of these states that add up to 270 without persuading some of those non-college educated white voters to vote Democrat.
The lesson of this election is Democrats have to do both. We have to mobilize more voters. We have to find even more voters than we found this time. We have to turn them out. We have to pay as much attention to Black, Hispanic, Asian American non-voters as they do the Trump voters. All right, John, I don't know how many times you ever watched this widely viewed YouTube series, Campaign Experts React.
Couple times.
But we have a tradition that I don't know if you're familiar with. That tradition is that our guest gets the opportunity to say the magic words. Do you know what the magic words are?
Smash the ever-living shit out of the subscribe button.
That is correct. And I feel that in the end of this entire process, I won by finally finding a way to not embarrass myself in saying it and tricking you into doing it for me. So thank you.
I don't consider it a trick. I consider it a pleasure.
All Are you auditioning for?
I just
the
want
next-
Elijah.
season
And Yale, I
2?
just want Elijah and Yale to like me. That's all.
The next ad we're going to look at is an attack on Trump's COVID response from the Biden campaign. This, I would note, was a digital spot related to Bob Woodward's book about Trump.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people. Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
Sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
It was obviously a horrific thing for Donald Trump to say, to admit that he was purposely playing down the pandemic for political purposes. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard. At the time, we were all shocked, maybe not surprised, but certainly shocked. I wonder how much this ad changed any opinions on Donald Trump or on the pandemic. I think if you thought that Donald Trump was mismanaging the pandemic before this ad, you continue to think he mismanaged the pandemic. If you thought that it was just something that happened to him and he was doing the best he could before this ad, you might have continued to think that as well.
We just can't get a real handle on how important the pandemic was to people's votes. It is clearly less important than we thought, given who turned out in the margins.
results,
I think that is
yeah.
very clear, yes. What I think about this ad is it should be thought of not just in the way we think of these television commercials that air during the Michigan-Ohio State game. I think it needs to be thought of as part of their communication strategy, right? Which is, here you have a story that you believe, based on your polling, right or wrong, could hurt Trump with voters. Because of the limited reach of the media and the hyperkinetic media environment we live in, a lot of the voters you're trying to persuade who are less engaged followers of the news than we certainly are, will miss this story. Like, to us, Bob Woodward tapes about Trump is the biggest deal in the world. It's on the cover of the Washington Post. Anderson Cooper led his show with it, right? Bob Woodward sat right there on the Morning Joe roundtable and talked about it. But most voters will have no idea who that is or what it is or anything. They probably think Bob Woodward, if they even know who he is, may think he's a fictional character from a movie. And so the Biden campaign, I thought, did very well down the stretch of this campaign. Was they took stories that were happening in elite media circles and paid to put them in front of voters who might not otherwise see them. They did the exact same thing with the story in The Atlantic, which is the personification of elite media circles. This is, I think, the future of how political campaigns are going to operate, which is you are paying to put things that happen in the news in front of voters you think they're going to care about. Whether this was a thing enough voters cared about, we have no idea. But it is, I think it's a sign of the future and something I was very impressed by what they did down the stretch.
And again, if your theory of the case is that this election will come down to a referendum on Donald Trump's character and that you can win enough voters, both, in your own base and swing voters and also voters who don't pay much attention to the news and are sporadic voters and don't come out that much. And the way that you can build the largest coalition is by making people believe that Donald Trump is unfit for the job and his unfitness for the job has caused death and destruction in this country, then that ad fits very well with that strategy. And guess what? That is the coalition that Joe Biden built and won.
Ultimately, in the end, we don't know what was the thing that what was the tipping point: ad, message, direct mail piece, whatever it is. But Joe Biden built a coalition that won a huge popular vote margin and won a very significant electoral college margin, flipping to critical Sunbelt states. And so you can't say that everything worked, but their view of what the electorate wanted and who the key people were to persuade and mobilize and get out was correct. And
how Joe Biden and his identity and his career and his experience fit within that message, it was exactly right.
I would say this about the entire messaging of the campaign, whether it is his tweets, whether it is the speeches he gave, the press conferences, all the ads, is they were all of a coherent piece. There was one message. It never deviated. The circumstances behind it and the context changed, but the message did not. And I think that is to the tremendous credit of their campaign. It was a remarkably disciplined campaign. There were, as we know, a lot of concerns among a lot of Democrats about what kind of general election candidate he would be, and he turned out to be a great one. Thanks for watching these ads and videos with us. If you have anything you'd like us to break down, let us know in the comments. See you all next time.